Hello, I'm Cynthia Deifert, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to read a textbook more effectively. First, before and while you're reading, you want to use textbook features. These are things like the title, headings, diagrams, footnotes, captions, and you also want to look at the text structure. How is each chapter arranged? The really nice thing about reading textbooks is that they are very predictable. And many times at the beginning of the book, it will tell you exactly how the book is structured. This is going to help us read it more quickly and efficiently. Second, determine what information is important. Third, make connections from the textbook to class material and your personal and career life. So when I say how to read a textbook effectively, I mean not only faster, but to get more out of it, to learn the concepts. So first, use textbook features and text structure to read effectively. Before I start reading any textbook chapter, or anything for that matter, I want to kind of preview what I'm about to read. So this is Chapter 5, Structure and Function of Plasma Membranes. I would want to ask myself, what do I already know about the structure and function of plasma membranes? That way I can activate my background knowledge. So when I learn new information about it, it's all in the same file cabinet in my brain. That way when I need to retrieve it, it's a lot easier because it's there in the same place. This chapter also has an outline, so it tells me there are 4 topics that will be covered. For the purposes of this video, I have only left Chapter 5, Section 1, Components and Structure as an introduction, and it also tells me what I should be able to know and be able to do by the end of the chapter. So this can help guide my reading and give me a purpose. I should read each heading, for example, fluid mosaic model, and also ask myself, what do I already know about this? Because that is going to help me know if I need to do any additional work before reading the chapter to build my prior knowledge. Since this is a biology textbook, of course, there are diagrams. Diagrams are meant to be read in conjunction with the text, not by themselves, so that you get a true understanding. I also see these bold-faced words in black. Those are important terms. And this textbook actually has all of the key terms in the back. Here's an evolution connection. Those are easy to see and they stand out, which are what text features are. They stand out on the page just like features on your face stand out, your eyes, your nose, your mouth. So anytime throughout this textbook, when I see a yellow box, I know it's that type of connection. This biology textbook also has link to learning. These are hyperlinks on this ebook where I can see animations. This is fantastic for visual learners to see processes in action. Career connection is a really nice touch because many times we have to make a connection from the text to actually how it will be useful to us in our future career. So it's really nice that this textbook does that. If it doesn't, you have to make those connections on your own. So as I said, I eliminated the other sections and we have key terms in alphabetical order. You would want to read and preview these before you start reading the chapter. You might also want to create a Quizlet with these terms and definitions. Just try to put them in your own words. Or you might try making paper index cards if you're old school, but again, try to put the definitions in your own words because that shows true understanding. Chapter summary is really nice. You want to read the chapter summary in its entirety before you read the whole chapter. This again will clue you in how much you already know And if you do not have enough foundational knowledge, you might need to do an internet search and build your knowledge about topics that you know nothing about to help you understand the textbook once you start reading the entire chapter. This also has questions, but even though it has questions for you already as the reader, you really want to generate your own questions as you read. This is the best way, the easiest way, I should say, to make sure that you're thinking while you're reading, to ask yourself and the author questions, to talk to the text. So every chapter in this textbook, I'm guessing, will be structured this exact same way, and it's always a good idea to read your chapter textbooks backwards, meaning read the end of the chapter where it has all of these resources for you before you just start reading page 1 of the chapter, because this gives you a good overview, what words, concepts are important, what you would need to know. Our second objective is to determine what information is important. This textbook did a really nice job at the end giving us reviews, summaries, key terms. Most college textbooks are written by college professors, so they have a pretty good handle on what is important. However, when you go to class, your professor might give you additional information that is not in the textbook, or build and expand on that information. When you see concepts repeated from your reading to the lecture, that's when you know that it's important. If your instructor gives you information that is not in the text, that could also be important. You want to be sure that you understand what is in the text and in the lecture. The lecture is not a substitute for reading your textbook. If you go to class unprepared without reading the textbook, you're not going to understand the concepts fully, most likely. So reflection is important. You could also ask your instructor what is important. Some people say what's on the test, but I would hope that you're not just trying to learn what's on a test, that you're actually engaged to learn to be a more knowledgeable human. An example of how to determine what's important from your textbook reading is to turn these headings into reporter's questions. Who, what, when, where, why, how. So for example, what is the mosaic model? When was the fluid mosaic model created? Who created the fluid mosaic model? So you get the idea. By asking those questions from each heading, you can determine what's important and what's not. Those are just to guide your thinking. The author may or may not answer all of those questions, in which case it may or may not be important. But these are the things that you want to put in your notes. So for example, if I were writing Cornell notes, I could actually put those questions on my left-hand side of my paper. What is the fluid mosaic model? Then my answer on the right. When was it created? Who created it? Etc. You can create these questions before you read or while you're reading, and you can also, after reading, determine what's important when you see that overlap of concepts between your textbook and your class. After you have read the chapter and written some notes, you want to try to make connections from that textbook information to your class material and your personal and career life. This again can be done before you read, while you read, or after you read. And asking yourself questions is an easy way to generate your own thinking. So you might want to look for, as I said before, common concepts and ideas that overlap that you see in your textbook and are mentioned in your class or your lab. and ask yourself, how are these related? Also, think beyond the text. How can you apply what the text says to your own life? Have you made a text-to-text connection? Have you read something related to this topic elsewhere? Maybe in another textbook, in the news, an article. Can you connect the material to another class? How does that relate? Also, thinking of your future career. How is this information going to be useful to you? This is one of the most important steps, to reflect on the reading. We don't want to just digest reading in isolation. We want to make connections so that it's meaningful and we can retain it. So after you read, be sure to review your notes from your textbook and the notes that you make to connect that information from the textbook to other areas of your life for long-lasting retention and application. Thanks. See you next time.